My husband's childhood best friend was sleeping with him behind my back. I exposed them at a family BBQ, and now his dad wants me to forgive her. I, 29F, have been married to my husband, 31M, for 5 years. We've had a good relationship overall, but there's always been one issue: his girl best friend, Megan, 30F. She's been in his life since childhood, and while I've always felt a bit uneasy about their closeness, I trusted my husband and tried to be cool with it. Megan is always around. She's at our house constantly. They text all the time, and she even comes on family vacations with us. Every time I brought up how their friendship made me uncomfortable, my husband would brush it off, saying she's practically a sister and that I was overreacting. To make matters more complicated, my mother-in-law, 58F, is amazing. She's always had my back and has told me multiple times that if Megan made me uncomfortable, I should talk to my husband about setting boundaries. On the other hand, my father-in-law, 60M, has a very different attitude. He adores Megan and has always said that she's part of the family and that I just need to deal with it. He thinks my discomfort with their friendship is just jealousy. Fast forward to 2 months ago. My husband started acting distant, coming home late, being secretive with his phone, and just off. I had a gut feeling something was wrong, so one night I went through his phone while he was in the shower. That's when I found out he and Megan had been having an affair for months. I was crushed. I confronted him, and he admitted everything. He swore it was a mistake, said he loved me, and begged me not to leave him. I didn't know what to do, so I stayed quiet for a bit, trying to process everything. A couple of weeks later, my in-laws hosted a big family BBQ. I was still reeling from the affair, but my husband convinced me to come, saying we needed to keep up appearances while we worked things out. I went, but I was a wreck inside, especially knowing Megan would be there. Sure enough, Megan showed up like nothing had happened, acting all friendly with everyone, including me. I was boiling inside, but I kept it together. Then, during dinner, my father-in-law made some offhand comments about how Megan would always be part of the family and that I needed to get over my insecurities. He said this in front of everyone. That was my breaking point. I stood up, looked straight at him, and said, "You know what? I would get over it if she wasn't sleeping with my husband." The entire table went silent. Megan's face turned white, and my husband tried to calm me down, but I wasn't having it. I told everyone exactly what had been going on: the sneaking around, the lies, the betrayal. My mother-in-law was furious, but not at me. She laid into my husband and Megan, saying they'd destroyed our marriage and disrespected me. My father-in-law, though, had the audacity to say I was overreacting and that affairs happen, but I shouldn't have aired it out in front of the family. He even defended Megan, saying she made a mistake and we should all move on. I left the BBQ and have been staying with my mom ever since. My husband keeps begging me to come home, and my mother-in-law has been supportive, but my father-in-law is telling the whole family that I'm the one causing drama and blowing things out of proportion. Aida for exposing their affair in front of everyone at the BBQ? Should I have kept it private, or was I right to call them out after everything? Update 1. After the chaos at the BBQ, I needed space to breathe and think clearly. I've been staying with my mom for a little over a month now. I initially thought it would just be for a few days, but honestly, every time I considered going back to my husband, I just felt this overwhelming sense of betrayal. Being at my mom's place has been a weird mix of comforting and suffocating at the same time. Comforting because she's been my rock through all of this, but suffocating because I know I can't just live in this limbo forever. There's a decision to be made, but it feels impossible to make. In the days immediately following the BBQ, my husband kept blowing up my phone. Apologies, promises, explanations, and even more apologies. He swears up and down that the affair with Megan meant nothing, and that it was just a huge mistake. The thing is, I'm not sure I believe him. It's one thing to say you made a mistake, but when that mistake involves months of sneaking around and lying to your spouse, how do you even come back from that? He keeps repeating that it was just physical, and that I'm the one he loves. But, if that's the case, why wasn't our marriage enough for him? Why did he feel the need to turn to Megan, of all people, the one person I'd always been uneasy about? Meanwhile, Megan has gone radio silent. No texts, no calls, nothing. I guess she's smart enough to realize she's not welcome anywhere near me right now. Good for her, I guess. It's funny because in the years leading up to all this, I'd actually started doubting myself. I thought maybe I was overreacting about their closeness, and that I was just being the insecure wife who didn't get it. I remember even trying to convince myself that Megan and I could be friends, or at least cordial, to make things easier. What a joke. But let me get to the real issue. The fallout with my in-laws. My mother-in-law has been supportive from day one. After the BBQ, she called me almost every day to check on me. She said she'd never seen her son act this way before, and she's devastated by what's happened to our marriage. She even told me that she's cut off all contact with Megan. I appreciated that, but honestly, I don't think it's enough. My husband was the one who made vows to me, not Megan. Sure, she's complicit in this mess, but my anger is directed more at him. He's the one who betrayed me on a level that's hard to put into words. Still, it's nice to know I have someone in my corner. Now, my father-in-law, that's a whole different story. He's still out here defending Megan, which is mind-blowing to me. According to him, this whole situation has been blown out of proportion. He actually had the nerve to call me and say I shouldn't have aired our dirty laundry at the BBQ. I asked him how I was supposed to react after everything, and he said, "You could have handled it privately." As if I wasn't already handling it privately for weeks while I tried to figure out what to do. He told me that my outburst has caused a huge rift in the family and that I'm making it harder for everyone to move on. He keeps saying that Megan's practically family and that I shouldn't let one mistake ruin everything. Let me be clear. This wasn't just one mistake. It wasn't a one-night stand or a drunken lapse in judgment. This was a months-long affair, and my husband chose to lie to me every single day for months. How can people not see the difference? I told my father-in-law that I wasn't interested in hearing his opinions on my marriage anymore, and I hung up. Since then, he's been telling the extended family that I'm being unreasonable and that I should forgive and forget. Apparently, he even told my husband that I'm acting like a child by refusing to come home. And speaking of coming home, that's where things get even messier. My husband is still living in our house. I haven't been back since the BBQ, but he's asked me multiple times to meet him there so we can talk it out. I know I need to have that conversation eventually, but I just can't bring myself to do it yet. Every time I think about walking through those doors, I picture him and Megan in there, together, laughing at me behind my back. I don't know if I can ever look at that place the same way again. My mom suggested I talk to a lawyer about possibly selling the house, but I'm not ready to make any big decisions yet. It feels like everything is up in the air right now. In the meantime, I've been working remotely from my mom's house, trying to keep my mind off everything. It's been hard, though. Every email, every meeting, every normal thing feels like it's happening in a fog. I can't concentrate on anything. My boss has been understanding, but I can't let this go on much longer. I feel like I'm on autopilot, just going through the motions of life without actually being present for any of it. A few days ago, I met up with my best friend, Emily, for coffee. She's been my ride or die since college, and I knew I needed her perspective on everything. She listened to the whole story, every painful detail, and then she just looked at me and said, "You don't owe him anything." That hit me hard. Because the truth is, I've been feeling like I do owe him something. Like I owe him a second chance, or at least a chance to explain himself. But why? Why do I feel like I'm the one who has to fix this when I'm the one who's been wronged? Emily's words really stuck with me. I don't owe him my forgiveness just because he's sorry. I don't owe him my trust just because he's begging for it. But then there's this other part of me that feels like I should try to work it out. We've been married for 5 years, and I don't want to just throw that away. Part of me wonders if I'd regret not giving him another chance, even though I'm furious at him right now. Maybe it's just the fear of starting over. Maybe it's the memories of the good times we've had, even though they're tainted now. I don't know. I feel like I'm stuck between two worlds, one where I fight for my marriage, and one where I walk away for good. I haven't made any final decisions yet, but I'm leaning toward at least meeting with him face to face. I need to hear his side again, in person, even though I'm not sure it'll change anything. Part of me thinks that seeing him might just confirm what I already know, that our marriage is broken beyond repair. But I guess there's only one way to find out. For now, I'm staying at my mom's. She's been amazing, but I know I can't stay here forever. I need to figure out what my next move is, and soon. Every day feels like I'm standing on the edge of a cliff, trying to decide whether to jump or turn around. It's terrifying, but I know I can't stay on the edge forever. I'll update again when I've made some decisions. Right now, I'm just taking things one day at a time. Update 2 said. So it's been a couple more weeks and things have gotten complicated, to say the least. After I posted the last update, I finally agreed to meet my husband face to face. It took me a while to work up the nerve, but I knew I couldn't keep avoiding the inevitable. We decided to meet at our house, and I can't even begin to describe the anxiety I felt walking back in there. Every step through the door felt like a punch to the gut, knowing what had happened behind my back in that very space. He was already there when I arrived, sitting in the living room, looking like a complete wreck. His hair was a mess, dark circles under his eyes. He definitely wasn't his usual put-together self. For a second, I almost felt bad for him. Almost. But then reality hit me again. This was the man who had cheated on me for months with someone I never trusted in the first place. So yeah, any sympathy I had evaporated pretty quickly. We sat down and it was awkward. Like painfully awkward. Neither of us knew how to start the conversation. Eventually, he broke the silence, saying, "I'm sorry for what felt like the millionth time." I just sat there staring at him, because what was I even supposed to say to that? Sorry doesn't magically fix months of betrayal. He tried to explain, again, that the affair with Megan was a mistake, and that it didn't mean anything. I finally asked him the question that's been eating at me. Why? Why did he do this? Why Megan, when he knew how much she made me uncomfortable from the start? His answer was not what I expected. He admitted that he had always had feelings for Megan. Apparently, they'd had some sort of thing way back in high school, but it never turned into a full-blown relationship. They'd stayed close friends instead, and he said that he convinced himself that they were just friends and nothing more. But deep down, those feelings never really went away. And then, when things got complicated in our marriage, which, newsflash, I had no idea things were even that bad, he turned to her. One thing led to another, and before he knew it, they were sneaking around behind my back. I was stunned. He had been carrying this torch for her our entire marriage? How was I supposed to process that? It wasn't just about the physical affair anymore. He'd been emotionally invested in her all along, and I never stood a chance. He said he never wanted to leave me for her, that I was the one he chose to marry and build a life with. But honestly, what does that even mean at this point? How can he say he chose me when he was secretly wishing for someone else? We sat in silence for a while after that. I was trying to hold back tears because I was so angry at myself for crying in front of him. I didn't want him to see me like that. But I guess he could tell I was on the verge of breaking down because he started pleading with me again. He said he was willing to do anything to make it right, to go to counseling, cut Megan out of his life completely, whatever it took. He kept saying how much he loved me, how much he regretted everything, and that he was willing to put in the work to fix things. The thing is, I'm not sure if I even want to fix things anymore. The more I think about it, the more I realize that maybe I've been holding on to this idea of our marriage that doesn't really exist anymore. Or maybe never did. If he's been harboring feelings for Megan this entire time, then what was real? Was our relationship just a cover for the feelings he couldn't act on with her? Did I ever really know him? These are the questions running through my mind, and I can't stop replaying everything over and over again. But here's where it gets even more complicated. A few days after our conversation, I got a text from Megan. I didn't even want to open it at first, but curiosity got the better of me. She said she wanted to talk, to clear the air. I was livid. Clear the air? What air is there to clear? But, against my better judgment, I agreed to meet with her. I think I just wanted answers from her, too. I needed to know what she was thinking throughout all of this, and why she thought it was okay to destroy my marriage. We met at a coffee shop, and I was ready to tear into her the second I saw her. But when she sat down, she looked different. I don't know how to explain it, but there was none of that confident, bubbly energy she always had. She looked worn out, like the whole situation had drained her. Honestly, I was ready for her to make excuses or play the victim, but what she said next completely threw me off. Megan apologized. Genuinely. She told me that she never meant for things to go this far, that she never intended to hurt me. She admitted that she had feelings for my husband too, but said that she knew it was wrong and that she should have distanced herself the second she realized those feelings were still there. She said she never wanted to break up our marriage, but that she got caught up in the history they had together, and she let it go too far. She said she's been filled with regret ever since the affair came to light, and that she's willing to cut ties with him completely if that's what I want. I sat there, staring at her, not really knowing how to respond. I mean, I'd been so angry at her for so long that I didn't know what to do with this apology. Part of me wanted to lash out at her, tell her that she destroyed my life, and that I'd never forgive her. But another part of me, a very small part, felt relief? Like maybe this chapter of my life could finally be over if she actually did cut ties with him. Maybe I could move on without constantly feeling like she was lurking in the background, waiting to pick up the pieces of whatever's left of my husband. I told her that yes, I wanted her out of both of our lives. Completely. No contact with him, no being part of the family, none of it. She agreed. She actually agreed without hesitation, which surprised me. She said she was planning to move to a different city to get away from all of this and start fresh. I wasn't sure if I believed her at first, but from the way she was talking, it seemed like she was serious. She said she'd already told my father-in-law, who of course had been defending her this entire time, that she wouldn't be around anymore. Apparently he wasn't happy about it, but Megan said she didn't care anymore. She just wanted to get away from the mess she helped create. I left that conversation feeling conflicted. On the one hand, I was glad she was finally out of the picture. But on the other hand, it didn't change the fact that my husband had betrayed me. It didn't change the fact that I'd been living in a marriage where I was always second best to someone else. And now I have to figure out what that means for my future. So here I am, still at my mom's, still trying to figure out what the hell to do next. I've been thinking more seriously about getting a divorce. I haven't made any moves yet, but I'm researching lawyers and what the process would look like. Part of me wonders if I'm just clinging to the idea of fixing our marriage because I'm scared of starting over. But deep down, I think I know that this marriage is broken beyond repair. I guess the next step is deciding whether to take that leap. I'll keep you all posted.